So hello and welcome to the Sex and Relationships podcast. I'm so pleased you can join us. I'm Clare Prendergast and I'm here with my colleague Janet Eccles. Hi Janet.
Hello Clare, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. And as you know, this is the podcast where we draw on our years and years, Janet, now of experience.
Yes.
To give you hopefully some insights, some advice, some top tips to guide you through your relationships and your sex lives.
Where are we going today, Claire?
We're going to talk about, I'm going to go Mancunian now, lust or bust. Or in my accent, lust or bust.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've got to give you 3 out of 10 for the Mancunian accent there. I mean, if we're going to go full test daily, I think it's lust or bust.
I'm rubbish at accents. I always been rubbish at them. Yeah, it's lust or bust.
So tell me about this one.
Well, essentially, it's the realisation that I think every sexual partnership at some point goes through when those early days of sexual intimacy, I mean, this isn't 100% for everybody, but for a lot of people, the early days of sexual intimacy are falling off a log. Two people attracted to each other, can't keep their hands off each other. And then a point comes somewhere down the line. For some couples, it's after 6 months. For some couples, it's after 7 years. But a point comes where it isn't easy anymore. And in fact, I go so far as to say lust has evaporated. And couples sometimes then their minds click in with, we must be done.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're addressing today. That period at the beginning of any new relationship you're talking about, commonly known as, the honeymoon period. It's probably an outdated phrase now because I think, when couples are in long-term relationship, I think there's more people don't get married now than actually do get married. So, an antiquated term. But nonetheless, we kind of know what it means. It means that early time of, romantic and sexual attraction for each other where we think it will always be like this. And I guess what we're doing at those times as well is because it's all special and new and novel, and maybe we're sort of making plans for the longer term, we prioritise. We prioritise the relationship, the other person, ourselves, and the things that we do together because it's important. And I guess what happens as time goes along is that we prioritise less and less and less because it becomes something that is just a part of our lives, and life can get more difficult, and then we have the grown-up business of doing important things like getting jobs and finding somewhere to live, and we may choose to have a family, or we may decide that we want a family and then can't have a family, and there are 100 different reasons why parts of us disappear, and the central relationship just doesn't get the same priority as it used to. And also just that pure carnal, animalistic, God, I fancy you. It does wane. It does. No one can keep that up for 30, 40 years. It does wane, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine and normal. But what we can encourage, people to do is just, what do you do instead? What can you do to strengthen that physicality between you that isn't based purely on lust? And I think that's sort of where we're going today, isn't it?
I think so. But I nearly interrupted you there, Janet, but that bit where you were talking about all the other demands that come in on a couple, I was thinking, one of the joys of long-term, good, solid, intimate partnership is you can, at times of squeeze, take each other for granted. You can count on them. It's like I'm out caring for a diminishing mother, for example, but I know you've got my back. I know you're keeping the home fires burning, and when I get in, you'll offer me a cup of tea. And this is such a precious, precious resource. We can then fall into the trap of, whilst we can take it for granted because we're busy doing X, Y, and Z, the trap we can fall into is then continue taking it for granted. And it's like we get out of practice, we get out of habit with the bits and bats that keep a couple close. We're both, I know, just using our hands loads. I mean, you can't see us, but yes. Sorry, Janet, you were going to say something.
Well, no, I was just thinking about how that nicely fits into, well, what does prioritising us and our relationship mean? And actually on some weeks when you're really up against it in life, that might mean just taking 20 minutes out to check in where, your phones are off or you're uninterrupted and you can just give each other some proper time. It might be just going for a walk around the block for 20 minutes, but it is just having that check-in where you can scoop up everything that's happened in the week and you can say, I know I've been like away with the stars this week, but I have noticed and I do thank you for everything that you've done for me. And that's all it needs. Yeah. That's all it takes, is just to show that you're noticing or the other person has noticed what you're going through, hence they've stepped up the caring, but then it's not talked about. Nobody mentions it.
Yeah, 100%. So, lust or bust? The lust has dwindled. Your word was starts to fade. I said evaporated. Do you know? I mean, I think, it can be, it has completely gone. It's like you find yourself looking at your dear beloved and thinking, what did I ever see in you? What was that? How could I have ever fancied you? I mean, it can be so absent at times in a long-term relationship. It doesn't mean it's gone for good. And this is where I think it's imperative that if you notice you no longer find your partner attractive, you no longer want to devour their gorgeousness, it's to then interrogate what's going on. What is this about? Because sometimes it's exactly what you were just speaking to. You've been holding the fort while they've been off doing up the house or caring or whatever it is. They have been AWOL. You have been keeping everything afloat. They haven't noticed. And rather than call them out and say, oi, I've been doing a lot round here. Could you please give me a little slap on the back and tell me you're grateful? We go into resentment. And then before we know it, something that is just a normal part of long-term relationships suddenly is becoming a massive gulf between you.
Yeah, and that's what can happen if the relationship isn't attended to over a long period of time. I mean, I guess you have gone into crisis mode where there is a lot of resentment and bitterness and feelings have been ignored and taken for granted around. But I'm hoping that one of the things that we can talk about today is how to notice when things are changing, I suppose, before they get to the crisis point.
But I disagree, Janet. I don't think resentment is an indicator of crisis. I think resentment is insidious. I think it creeps in when you didn't say goodbye when you left for work this morning. It's like those little ouches. Rather than go, ouch, that really hurt, I need to send a text and say, you never said goodbye. We'd rather not do that because that makes us feel even more vulnerable. We manage it by just layering it with just a little sliver of just small resentment, which we then store up. And if that stores up over weeks and months, then yes, it then becomes a crisis. But I think it's something to be alert to on a day-to-day basis.
So I suppose when couples find that they are either increasingly irritated or increasingly feeling resentful towards each other, for me then it's about, I mean, you can go down the defensive and it's not me, it's you route, but where's that going to get you? But just that flagging up, that noticing, what's changed? Because, when I started my new job this time last year and things were tough, I'm sure I didn't feel like this, or you had that thing on and I know I stepped up, and so what is it that's changing? as with so much in relationship work, it's not making assumptions about, okay, there's a decrease in desire to have sex with you, to be physically close or intimate with you. I've noticed there's a decrease in desire there. And sometimes that can just send panic bells off. And actually, it's just a sign.
Yes,
I think that's
exactly.
what I want to say.
It's just a sign that we need to chat.
Yes, exactly.
Lust is one of the first indicators that there's maybe something going on. And I love your example. We could go defensive and say, it's not me, it's you. But I mean, equally, we could, this is more my style, go, it's not you, it's me. Do you know, which shuts it down.
Yeah.
It's like, whilst we're either blaming the other or blaming ourselves, the opportunity to kind of open it up and go, oh, let's have a chat. What's changed? And together we can cook up all sorts of potential solutions for meeting it. Like you've given the 20-minute walk around the block. It could be, we haven't sat down and eaten together this week.
Yeah.
And when we're busy, we can just end up with just fueling. We're not actually using food as an opportunity to, how are you? What's going on in Janet land? What's going on in your land? And a chance for me to kind of go, God, you know what? In Clare land, there's dum-de-dum-de-dum.
So noticing it as a clue, and then noticing what is your attitude towards sex or physical intimacy. And I'm going to keep banging on about this probably every time we speak, Claire. When we talk about sex, and maybe the people who are listening to this think about sex as often as intercourse or some kind of penetration, and that's not how we generally think about sex, is it? It's generally about being sexual with each other. And so if you think about what is your attitude to sex, and you're thinking, if you are male and female in a couple together, then I guess what you might be thinking of is penis and vagina sex. And you've got the kids to collect, and you've got to do the Tesco shop, and you've got to go and see your parents, and it's like, oh my God, the thought of that, forget it. But if you think about it in a much broader sense of, as in sex, for us, I think, and certainly the way we encourage people to think about it, is it's sort of sex in the ether. So basically, whatever you're not going to do with your auntie or your mother-in-law or
your neighbour,
but your neighbour. So a casual touch in the kitchen, quick hug, or I've had a terrible day, and hold me for 10 seconds. It's all of the things that say you're in a physically intimate sexual relationship, but you don't have to have sex to have a sexual relationship. And it doesn't matter, if you have what you would normally maybe what you thought back to in the early days, and the kind of sexual relationship that you had when you first got together. If that only happens once a year, twice a year, once a month, but all the other things are happening around it, the cuddles on the sofa, the bit of flirty banter in the kitchen, or the cheeky tap on the backside, or whatever, then you can still have a fulfilling and pleasurable sexual relationship without thinking, oh my God, it's Tuesday night, 11 o'clock, I'm going to have to do that, because that's not, no one wants that sex life. No one wants that.
No, and I honestly, I could count, I wouldn't have enough fingers and toes or anything to count the amount of times a couple have presented where one of them is doing obligation sex. Uh-huh. There's a different sex drive, and one of them sees sex as a kind of requirement of the partnership. It's part of the deal. And the other one sees it as their duty. And this is not a gender thing. This happens both ways. And sex on demand, because it's my job, it's the antithesis of everything you want to be co-creating for a long-term intimate partnership, which is the things you're describing, a space where you've got each other's back, you're each other's special person, you have a kind of insider perspective on each other's lives. The problem with sort of demand sex like that is it's not connecting, it's not intimate, you're not engaging with the person you're with, you're engaging with a function, and that is just that just makes the gulf bigger and bigger and bigger, and lust will just not come back into the room if you do sex like that. Whereas if you could just find it within your willingness to show kindness to your partner, that might be, you run them a bath, or you offer to make tea that evening, or whatever, whatever it is, but you show kindness. It's like leaning a hand in.
It's that attention, isn't it? And I guess when we first get together, a lot of the attention and pleasure is given through physical touch and sexual touch, and that's what makes us feel amazing. And I suppose as we go through life with everything that entails, but also as we age, our physical and sexual needs will change. I was just thinking about it in terms of physical exercise. And when I was 14, I used to run for the school, and I was known to, jump over a hurdle or two. And I was just thinking about the idea of me running around a track now and trying to jump over hurdles and what a dog's dinner that would look like. And so what do I do now? Well, I go for brisk walks, and I walk up hills, and I get out into the natural world, because that's what makes me feel amazing. And I suppose it's that evolution, and it's that changing, our taste change as we go through life. So why do we expect our sex lives, our sexual relationships to stay the same? Because there is always seems to be this fixed idea of what we had in the beginning was the best. And if we're not doing that, then, then it's not as good. And nothing else in life works like that. And of course, the physical sexual relationship, but also the physical and sexual us doesn't work like that either. But redefining and allowing each other to evolve and change, like, okay, I don't want to do that anymore, but let's give this a go, or I'd like to try that now, and take the pressure of sex off and just start doing things that give you some pleasure.
I do find it helpful though, when that yearning for how it was in the beginning comes into the room, to sort of deconstruct what are the component parts of your intimate life at the beginning. So it was like I always made an effort when I was going to see you. I thought about what I was going to wear. Yeah. I spent ages on my hair. I'd spend ages researching restaurants to find just the right place for us to go and eat. Or I heard you say you particularly like asparagus, and I found this place that does really good asparagus. It was like a consistent process of recognition occurring between the two of you. You're listening attentively, and you're responding with suggestions to that. Now, those examples I've just given, those aren't what we think about as sex, but they are the ingredients that build intimacy. And it's making time for us. And in this time-poor time, which I think, it is a first world thing, it's a Western thing, this kind of crazy attachment to busy and growth and big economies or whatever, and just kind of being able to step back from that and go, actually, hanging out with you without having to be anywhere else. I mean, that is essentially what sex is. It's like the two of us being in a space without anywhere else to be.
Yeah, it's play, isn't it? It's a way of playing with someone you really care about. If you're not getting the fun or the pleasure or the comfort from that play, then you're playing the wrong game, and it's time to switch it up or down.
But when we sort of get hooked into I need to be feeling lust for this relationship to be viable.
Yeah.
We miss all those other steps along the way. Yeah. And the irony is, particularly, speaking as a woman now, as I've aged, I love your analogy with exercise, as I've aged, and particularly as I went into and through the menopause kind of gateway, desire just evaporated. So lust was, I mean, it just was like, what's that? I mean, it was just it was an intellectual or academic notion. It wasn't a physical experience in my body. But that didn't mean I wasn't able to generate feelings of lust if all the right ingredients were put in place to let it arrive. And I think that's the bit that in long-term relationships we can forget.
I think it's important to say that that's not the same for all menopausal women, but it's very common amongst menopausal women.
No,
but
good point.
Also it happens with men, you know, if for whatever reason, illness or weight or stress or, you know, 100 different reasons that, you know, the sort of testosterone, the androgens, the hormone levels of men begin to decrease for some. It's exactly the same, that I haven't got that spontaneous fire for you that I had, and that worries me. And then I'll start worrying about you know, that instead of, okay, well, it is still very, very possible to have a fulfilling and pleasurable and connected sexual relationship without feeling spontaneous sexual desire.
Yes.
I think one of the things that I see commonly, that people struggle with commonly, is if we are physically intimate in any way, if we say get naked together and have a bath or a shower together, I am worried that they will think that this then is going to lead to sex. So I want to cut that off right now because I don't want to do that. So I will deny us and deny me everything that comes before that, because I don't want there to be any assumptions. And what I just think it's so sad.
And this is where both of us being able to sit down together and go, oh gosh, I've noticed I'm not feeling it. Can we talk about it? In the sort of growing collaborative process of this is our problem. This isn't your problem or my problem. This is our problem. You can build a way of communicating with each other whereby you could be playing in the shower and either one of you at any point can say, I'm really not feeling it, I'm going to get out. And the temptation, this is why I brought resentment in earlier, saying it can be the tiny things. It doesn't have to be a massive thing. It's just what we need to be awake to is the disappointment, because actually I was really feeling it. When we were messing in the shower just then, I was really feeling it. And you've said, I'm not feeling it and I'm disappointed. Yeah. The work for me is to not weaponize that disappointment and turn it into something it doesn't need to be. It's like, I am disappointed. It's like, you've gone. Here I am in the shower on my own. Shucks, I really thought this was going somewhere. What am I going to do to manage my disappointment that isn't going to turn it into something toxic and weaponized and gets a rift between us, but actually allows you to be true to you? You're not feeling it and you want to stop, and that is okay.
And there are a few ways to manage that situation, aren't there? I mean, you know, I guess in one of your connecting chats, you know, you could say, let's have a shower, let's have a massage, but with the understanding that it's not going to lead to anything sexual unless I specifically say that my feelings have changed and you know, and those feelings are starting to kick in for me. You know, it's not going to kill you, is it, if you're starting to feel aroused and your partner, the person you're with, isn't in the mood for sex? You know, it's like, well, great, you know, you can go and sort yourself out for 5 minutes afterwards. There's no law against that. So there are ways of managing it, but like you say, Claire, the real trick of it is not to feel hard done to and then to punish your partner for them not feeling the same as you. Can I just say, I know that we're using this PIV term a lot for this idea of intercourse, for penetration in some way, but I suppose I just wanted to make it really clear that this is not, we're not just talking about relationships where it's one male and one female.
100%.
That these same issues happen with when there's two women and females together, two men together, two bisexual people, you know, that these are not straight issues, these are relationship issues.
Yes. I'm going to change the subject. Is that all right?
Of
I mean, not
course.
change the subject, stay on topic, but from the point you're making, which is for those of you listening who are potentially feeling a little bit alienated because you're not having sex and you're not wanting to have sex, I want to really put out there that it's absolutely okay to have a sex-free relationship. That there are many, many, many couples who are enjoying intimate, extended, long-term relationships. They have come to a place where, whilst they might be happy to sit in a bath together if the tub's deep enough and big enough, they actually don't want to do sexual, as in twiddling nips or playing with genitals. They just don't want to do that anymore. And both of them are happy with that. They've talked about it. I just want, if you're listening to us and you fall into that camp, I just want you to know that that is absolutely okay. It is not a criteria of intimate adult relationships that you are sexually active.
Well, that's a crucial part, isn't it? If you both feel the same way.
Yes.
And I suppose problems come when one feels that way and the other person doesn't, and of course there are ways of negotiating that in a relationship. Some couples would even give a partner permission to get sexual needs met elsewhere. Lots of people wouldn't be comfortable with that. And wouldn't be happy about that. That would be a deal breaker. But that's and again, it's just that it's whatever works for you. The worst thing that you can do, I think, is to deceive and lie, because that's going to come up and bite you on the nose.
Well, it's a bit like that
day.
thing we were saying before about, I was saying before about, the sort of slippery nature of resentment. It can snuck in on a tiny thing. I think that sort of, if we could find ourselves, I'm going to use the A word, which we were going to speak about, if you find yourself, your attachment to the relationship is so great that the fact that your partner's just said, actually, I think we've not had sex for 6 months and I feel really good on it. I'd like us to stop being a sexual couple. If my partner says that to me and I agree because the relationship is too important to lose, the work in that instant is to find the courage to speak up and articulate that actually isn't okay with me. I want a sex life with you. And that's where we have, in clinical speak, we call it mismatch desire. And then, it might be helpful to come and see one of us or one of our colleagues, because mismatch desire is so common and is really, really surmountable. It is something that can be resolved. You've given a kind of extreme solution there, Janet, in terms of outsourcing your desire, but it can be managed within a partnership as well. But it does require both of you telling the truth.
But then it's we're right back to well-defined sex then in your relationship, because when you say don't want to have sex anymore, you say you don't want to be touched anymore, you don't have cuddles anymore, because we need to be clear about this, or actually is it okay to have physically intimate touch up to a point, and therefore if that is the case, where is that point?
Absolutely. And I guess, I'm just thinking about what you coined the title for today, lust or bust. And I just want to give a little bid, really, for the value of hanging in through the tough times. We're coming out of it now, but I think we've had at least 2, if not 3 decades of this really disposable culture. And I think we've got caught in doing that with our relationships as well. And when we're experiencing this diminishing of lust or complete evaporation of lust, I think culturally we're kind of predisposed to jump into bust rather than taking the time to go, look, hang on a minute. Do I really want to call time on this for that? Or do I want to just take stock? And I think relationships do have sell-by dates, and sometimes the work is about coming to terms with the fact that we are we are done. This relationship's dead in the water. It's time to let it go. But often it is just, we've got some work to do. There's been some unnoticed ruptures along the way. There's some repairs required. There's some new techniques maybe around how we talk to each other. But to kind of be open to the possibility that mending and hanging in can deliver dividends beyond imagination, really, when we're caught in that disposable trap of it's not working, bin it off, get a new one. And the other thing I did want to say about that in terms of risking a long-term partnership is the sex we had at the beginning and the sex we're having now, it isn't necessarily the sex we're going to be having tomorrow. That actually in the ebb and flow of a long-term relationship, we might be going through a particularly dry patch, even a desert patch, but it isn't data that this is the future. It's just data about today. And that's where the rich kind of, if it was a really rich, glorious beginning, there's juice to be pulled from that because you quite likely have a rich and glorious future. It's just right now it's a bit tricky.
Yeah, that actually, Claire, made me think back to, you mentioned attachment before. And you're absolutely right in that people's attachment styles can help them or influence them in terms of how to read the situation when you're hitting a drought or a desert patch. And if somebody has, say, a particular attachment style where they're very sensitive to rejection or a threat of abandonment and their partner goes off sex with them, then all of those sort of threat responses about being abandoned or rejected are going to kick in and therefore they're going to fall down the trap of, being resentful and angry and you don't want me anymore and goodness, maybe even I'm going to look elsewhere, all on the basis of you've got, very sensitive to a sort of threat of rejection in your attachment.
Goodness, yes. So attachment theory, that is a really incredibly useful lens, I think, to look at intimate partnerships through. But my word, it's a big one. So I suggest, Janet, we loop back to this in another episode. Maybe we'll do a whole episode on attachment.
I think that'd be a really good idea, Claire, because there's so much to say about sex and attachment.
And just as a little teaser for that, I do want to reassure you, lovely listeners, that attachment styles are not like star signs. It's not when you identify your style, that's you doomed for life. It is purely a lens to notice why you do what you do when in extremis, or even not in extremis, just in little kind of incidents, your attachment style will show up. And the other thing that we've alluded to a couple of times today is what I think I refer to as outsourcing sexual needs. And one thing we didn't speak about was the use of porn as a way of outsourcing. And so I think that as well, we'll do an episode exclusively looking at outsourcing as a way of managing mismatched sexual desire in a relationship.
Yeah, so that's definitely, we'll come back to that one as well, Claire, because there's lots to say. But coming back to today, what do you think your takeaway is from where we've been today?
I think my top tip of all we've talked about is to be awake to what I'm doing in response to the fact that this has left my relationship with you. So I'm no longer feeling lust. What meanings am I cooking up? What stories am I telling? How am I coping with that notice? Am I retreating into resentment? Am I avoiding? Am I shutting down? Because those are all those sort of sub-levels of it are what get in the way and make a very fixable difficulty very hard to fix.
Yeah. And I suppose part of that is don't panic.
Oh, no.
Yes, notice, don't panic, because those things that you talked about going down that rabbit hole, that's all the catastrophizing, which is, oh my God, I'm not feeling this anymore. That means our relationship is in crisis, it's in trouble. But like you said, just don't panic. take a calm look, take at what you're doing with that, because there is lots to be done.
Do you want to add anything, or?
Yeah, I think my takeaway today is just being sexual is not just having sex, it's all the other things that surround it and are around it, and that you only do with your partner or your lover.
Yeah. Foot massages on the sofa count as sex. If you'd like to read more about what we've been talking about, then please do visit our website, thesexandrelationshipspodcast.com. Yep, that's it, thesexandrelationshipspodcast.com. And on the site, you'll find there's a section where you can leave questions that you'd like us to explore in our chats. We really, really, really want to hear from you. We're only relevant if we're in partnership with you. So please let us know what's on your mind. It's been lovely chatting, Janet. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye, Claire. See you next time.